Hi again, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of Newsmakers TV. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, October 10th, and I am joined by our all-star panel of top local journalists, Ryan P. Cruz, staff writer for The Independent, Nick Welsh, the angry poodle his own self, and Josh Molina, man of many hats, and host of the global smash hit podcast, Santa Barbara Talks. Thanks, fellas, for being with me. I want to, since our core audience is political hacks, I want to start with a bit of political hackery, which is, Nick, you have spent some time for an anonymous piece of work endorsing Proposition 50 at the November 4th special election, the redistricting commission, and that's the cover story of the Independent. One thing I just wanted to tease out a little bit because a line struck me that you all editorially had endorsed the Independent Commission itself when those ballot measures were on the ballot in 2008 and 2010, if memory serves. And so you're sort of endorsing this reluctantly. Talk about that a
Well,
little bit.
I mean, gerrymandering is a dubious proposition under the best of circumstances, but this unfortunately is the worst. And you know, there was a reason we used to have what was called the ribbon of shame here. That was our congressional district, and it went up the coast, and it really was designed to create the safest district on the planet for then Congressmember Lois Capps, who probably really didn't need that level of help, but they wanted a safe seat, and I think a part of it was like 200 yards wide. I mean,
And it included four different counties, is that right?
and yeah,
Parts
it
of
was like communities of interest and all that were sort of thrown out the window. And, there was a reason people called it the ribbon of shame. And that was part of what, the Independent Commission was not designed to prevent. So we thought that was a good idea. I don't know that it accomplishes goals. I mean, I don't know that the country or the state is less polarized according to party position. But there is a reason why there are more people who are declining to state or independent now than there are Republicans or Democrats. Uh, you know, People are feeling alienated from the way the system is. So that's my blah, blah, blah. The real thing here is really we endorse this because you don't bring a Bible to a knife fight. And, all of our good government, what you would call goo uh, stuff goes out the window in the face of what is now happening with Donald J. Trump. And really, I don't want to get too hysterical, but the term coup d'etat does come to mind when you hear and see, the eagerness with which he is looking to militarily occupy a lot of major cities. He wants to, militarily occupy large portions of the country, all of whom have Democratic mayors, many of whom have mayors who just happen to be people of color. And of course, there are crime rates in all of these cities, and only, or it's burning up, But really, what happens is he sends these people in to pick a fight. People fight back. They throw a torpedo sandwich at an ICE agent. And of course, the only thing you can do when somebody throws a torpedo sandwich at a government employee is a military occupation. And I know I'm being a bit flippant, but I thought, we kind of hit a boiling point when, he called 800 military leaders into one room in Quantico, Virginia, and said, "Listen up, fellas, we're being invaded from within, and we need to prepare and get ready by going. Our defense starts with American cities. That is as close to a declaration of war as anybody's ever going to get. And I know that we've all become
declaration of civil war.
a declaration of civil war, and we're all overwhelmed by the pace of the latest outrage, or what we consider to be the latest outrage. But I think even if you are MAGA, even if you are a good Republican and you think the woke agenda has run amok, et cetera, I think there's reason to be alarmed.
Yeah.
And so it was a hold your nose and vote endorsement. The reality is, uh, Top 50 is kind of complicated and tricky things don't really pass as a rule. What it would do for people who wish I would have gotten to the point sooner, it would
Stop Trump.
it would give California, it would redraw our congressional boundaries, so as we have a really good chance of having five new Democratic seats. And when there's a three-seat margin right now that the Republicans have over the Democrats, and they just got a five-seat advantage from Texas, having done this very thing, but
Without a vote, without a
without a
vote.
vote of the
Yeah.
people. We thought it was really important to do it now.
All
So
right.
yeah, hold your nose and vote, but most importantly, vote.
Yeah.
One last thing, and then I will shut up. I promise. Um, the uh, the campaign against it is when you go on YouTube, you would think the anti-50 people are anti-Trump. It is very effective and very deceptive. And so if you're just a internet consumer of bad campaign ads, these are very effective and you could easily be duped. On the flip side, the Democratic Party has made a target out of Wally Munger's son. Okay, Wally Munger's son's a billionaire who's put a lot of money into No 150. Nobody knows who he is. If you have to get into the fine print, you've already lost. The Democrats are fighting over the fine print. So we thought it was important. We had to put it on the front page. It was the simplest, least clever cover we've run in life forever, and there was a reason.
All right. All right.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
went too
And
long.
I thought it struck the right tone. This is not about good government. It's about power. And they're trying to get it all. And since I'm in charge of catastrophic thinking, next Wednesday, the Supreme Court's going to hear a case about the Voting Rights Act. And if they decide, as they have been deciding, to throw out part of it, Republicans can gain 27 seats. So this may be a couch change by the time it's all done. All right, back to more hyper-local matters. Josh and Ryan, I believe you were both summoned to a top double secret briefing this week from City Administrator Kelly McAdoo and her minions about the latest of what's going on with that huge project at Paseo Nuevo. Josh, what did you hear that was new and what's coming next?
I don't know, but if anybody from the city's watching, if you expect to get me there at 9, coffee would be nice. I got there
They
right
had
on the
coffee?
we got there before they got there. I'm like, where's the coffee? Where's the Starbucks? Come on. We're here for your public relations
Oh,
show. You got to give us something. So, the city of Santa Barbara has been doing this thing with the media, which is sort of wanting to preventively go out there and kind of offer information about certain projects. And so this one is Paseo Nuevo, and
which I think is a good thing. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I think it's better to be briefed in advance than not at all.
yeah, I mean, and we're pros, like we know what's for show and what is actually, good new information. And so they're doing this with Paseo Nuevo. It was at the Planning Commission yesterday, and they got a very stiff response from the commission. But essentially, what they are trying to do is have the Planning Commission meeting and then a bunch of public sort of hearings, town hall forums at Paseo Nuevo to educate people about the project. They are partnering with the long-term leaseholders of Paseo Nuevo for the next 40 years to build market rate 233 market rate units where the old Macy's used to be on the corner of Ortega and then wrapping around onto Chapala. And then they're going to build somewhere between 80 and 85 affordable units for people who make less than 80% of the area media income at the time, kind of on, I think it's parking lot two. It's across from the Canary Hotel. It's kind of next to an alley. And so they're going to eliminate some parking spaces and build 6 stories. And so this is their plan, working with AB Commercial and the Georgetown Company, the developer, to redevelop Paseo Nuevo and hopefully bring people downtown, housing downtown, and then this will light a fire downtown in terms of restaurants and retail and feed into the whole State Street master plan and everything they are trying to do there. It is complicated. It is not without controversy. They're putting all of the affordable housing in one spot next to an alley across from the Canary Hotel. And the reason for that is that it's going to be a housing authority project. And in order for them to qualify for tax exempt financing, it needs to be in one spot. They are not building any housing with the market rate, which by the time this thing gets built is going to be $7,000 to live there. I mean, rents are already 4,500, 5,006, depending on where you are at. And so there is some movement like, hey, why don't you put some inclusionary, your 10% model there as well? And then there are some who just, don't like the project. There is talk of putting a luxury upper scale market grocery store. Erewhon was talked about. People don't want that. They think that's going to be a certain kind of a layer of gentrification that is going to hurt downtown. There's a Ralph's across the street, kind of. And so there are a lot of different factors going on here. The city of Santa Barbara, they are giving away the land underneath the mall because they so badly want AB Commercial and the Georgetown Company to develop it. They say if we don't, they're just going to let this mall rot or decline for the next 40 years and not offer any sort of investment into it because 40-year leases are not good for amortizing long-term loans. So they won't be able to sell it. It's just going to sit there. So they're saying, hey, we're going to give you the lease. Please do something, make it better. And so it's controversial, or people are like, hey, city, you own this land. Why are you
Yeah.
going to give it away? And then, of course, they can turn around and sell it. And the affordable in 90 years, none of us will be here, but that can just go back to market rate. So
And,
it's
and then there's
controversial.
Ryan, let me ask you because pearl clutching moderates such as myself are most outraged by the height limit violation here, but it seems to me there's been sort of a subtle shift, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when we started out at the front end of this, it was all about, affordable housing for people and teachers and cops and stuff. And now the message has become, well, we got to bring people downtown no matter what, and it'll all, all the benefits will trickle down. Am I correct? And is the affordable housing thing sort of been pushed to the back burner here?
Well, the affordable housing, it's technically low income, as Josh said, and that's below 80% of AMI. And AMI in Santa Barbara right now is what, $111,000. So people making 80% of that is people making about 85,000 and below. So you're talking about the low income people that are going to be able to afford to live there when it's actually built. You're not really bringing in the really working class. I mean, you will be bringing in workers and city workers and people that, nurses, things like that. But you're not really getting that low income, diversity that you really need to make a area vibrant. And that's kind of the worry right now, is that it's going to turn into downtown, as we see this push for not having inclusionary at all in downtown. And adaptive reuse is also on the menu this week for city council. And whether or not you have inclusionary housing downtown, developers are going to want to say, and it's true, it's very expensive downtown. They're going to want to say the profit margins, it doesn't pencil out. It doesn't pencil out if we have to do any affordable housing. But if we just get rid of that affordable housing and don't have an in lieu fee that's equal measure to what the impact would be, then we can't put that back in the tube afterwards, and we can't force somebody to. There's going to be no diversity of housing downtown. We're going to see a gentrification of State Street. We already have one of the shocking things that I found out from the meeting was that most cities have about 20% of their rentals downtown in their downtown area, and Santa Barbara is at 5%, and that means we're way far below of having a vibrant downtown.
So what are the politics of it? How was it greeted at the planning commission and how will it be greeted at council?
So, there's a lot of a balancing act, right? There's that development agreement that three parties have to agree on. It's the city who owns the land underneath. It is Alliance Bernstein who owns the leases above the ground, and then Shopoff, which owns Nordstrom. And what Shopoff has a stake in, they also have to agree on this whole plan, because if this doesn't go forward, then they can't build housing, and that's what they want to do there. And the city wants could get another 100 units there, and that could be, a thousand more people downtown. And they're really wanting this, the city's wanting this project to go through with a good amount of units, to have units downtown. There's a push to get it done, but there is among the commissioners and the design boards a lot of questions about what can we do about it. It kind of sounds like the outline right now with the units and what the Macy's and the lot two for the affordable housing, that's kind of what the plan is going to be, and there's not much wiggle room. And with the height, there's pretty much nothing they can do about the height due to state density bonus laws.
All right.
And
Okay.
it's a significant bump. I mean, it's what, 75 feet, our height limit before was 60.
It's 60, and you got the Balboa building, which will be, technically I think it's 66 feet, and
Right.
then but it's a little downhill, so they'll be about even. And the Canary, the lot two affordable housing will be a little bit lower than that, but it's still going to be pretty high.
So the
So this is what you guys
Manhattanization of
saw.
State Street. What'd you
This is
say?
you guys saw. It's like the city's saying we have a gun to our head. We don't have any choice. And do you have any reasons to believe that they actually do have some wiggle room, or they do have some choice? That it isn't take it or leave it.
To me, it's the threat of it not being developed for another 40 years is real. I think the idea that it will deteriorate and become a slum, I don't think that would happen. I think it would stay in what it is now, which is not exactly the best thing, but it's not the worst thing either. It's hard to tell though whether how much wiggle room they have, and how much benefit they will get with sales tax and all the vibrancy they're hoping to get in the city afterwards.
Yeah, Nick raises a good question. I mean, is it take it or leave it at this point?
Well, the city would have you believe that. Kelly
But
Mack.
do you have reasons they're wrong? You've been reporting this. Have you come across anything that would say, "Oh, they're just fear mongering because they just want to get it done"?
Well, we can't predict the future. There is an argument that AB Commercial is not going to let this asset deteriorate. If they own it, they're going to want to make as most money possible on it if this deal doesn't go through. And so the previous owners invested in tenant improvement. So we don't know until we get there. The city would have you believe if we don't do this, downtown is going to crumble. But
So
downtown
when you
is
say
already.
the city, you mean the administrators,
I mean, going back to Rebecca Bjork,
but not the politics, but
not
not
the
the council,
the
not the
planning commission, the housing activists. So there are people who don't like the height. There are people who want more affordability, and Kelly McAdoo does not want those people to scare the AB Commercial, because the longer this goes, then there are market forces that could play into the viability of the deal. Costs are rising, construction costs, and so they're concerned, at least according to McAdoo, that they are going to walk away or do nothing. So we don't know, but I mean, I do think that just the abstract concept of giving away the land underneath, these leases and the parking lot seems a pretty remarkable giveaway. Now, yes, we are going to get housing, but I think that, Ryan and I might be able to live there. Nick and Jerry, you guys wouldn't be able to, if it's, 80% or below. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And I asked this question in the room, and Ryan was there. I said, the people cleaning City Hall, are they going to be able to afford to live there? And I got an answer of, I don't know. Depends on how much they're going to get paid. So
All right, let me ask about a related issue that came up this week too, which is Wendy Santa Maria and Kristen Snedden have done their two signature memo to get rent control back before the council. What's going on with that? I mean, where's Megan Harmon in that? I thought she was the great advocate of a communist rule downtown.
I
How
think we'll
did this
definitely
all come about?
hear from Megan on Tuesday. They'll bring it up. It's the beginning of a long process. You know, you do the two-person memo, and then after the two-person memo, the city council talks about whether they want to formally go forward and agendize a discussion on the item, and then at that point, they'll discuss the item at a future date, and then they can direct staff to actually write this ordinance or draft this ordinance so they can adopt it. So it's the beginning of the process. We saw this with tenant protections, the right to return, I think earlier this year, February, if I'm not mistaken. And it was Wendy Santa Maria and Kristen Sneddon also doing a two-person memo with that. So I think this is, you know, something that Wendy Santa Maria ran on, that this is something she was going to push for when she got elected, and it did flip the council to a 4-3 majority in favor of you know, people that have spoken out in favor of rent cap in the city. Now the number they floated out there now is 60% of CPI, which is, you know, after I did a lot of math, it depending on how you calculate it, you know, the LA CPI is 3.3, but the statewide is 3.8, which is what I tied it to, and that would be the rent cap would be 2.28% each year. So if you're, which is you know, a substantial cap from what the state is, a substantial drop from what the state would be.
Josh, is it just my imagination, or was this a surprise to Councilmember Harmon?
Well, Ryan had the story. I have not reported on it. I have not talked to anyone about it yet. I will sort of do something before the meeting, but my sense from this is that process-wise, this is Wendy and Kristen sort of getting out there really early
And is this part of Kristen's campaign for mayor?
without sort of going through the process. I don't know how much of this ordinance has been conceptualized or visualized or envisioned, but I got to say that if Mike Jordan and Randy Rouse were working behind the scenes on a two-person memo to craft something that was opposite to what Wendy and Kristen Sneddon wanted, there would probably be lots of calls about what's happening behind the scenes and why isn't this transparent. So I imagine when this goes to the council, that kind of stuff is going to come up. The bottom line is if you introduce rent control leading up to the election year, this could be a fatal blow for Randy Rouse politically, or it could cause all these people to come out and we have high voter turnout, and it's
Well,
just
it could also cause the real estate industry to put something on the ballot, which
yeah,
would
and they could do something
help.
and then it's a vote, and you know, I don't know how that goes, but it is definitely trying to start a fire here right before the election year. Now, of course, Wendy and Kristen would definitely say this has been going on forever. This isn't new. I mean, we got to do something now. We've been talking about this for years, and now we have the 4 votes. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I think we're going to have to see how it plays out once it's at the council. You know, Megan Harmon has been the leader of the effort to create some form of rent stabilization, rent control, whatever word you know you want to use, depending on how you feel on it. So it is curious that you know she's not part of this, but you know maybe she'll jump on board at the meeting. I don't know.
Yeah, and she could be the decisive vote as well.
You know, I think Megan is pretty much termed out. She's not going to be running for mayor. She's not going to be, you know, she's kind of, she got 3 kids. She's got a job. She's on the Coastal Commission.
She's chair of the Coastal Commission.
She has a lot on her plate. And so right now, the fact that she is not front and center on this, I don't know that is indicative of some.
I hate to play like you know progressive you know annoying person, but I mean it's not fair to
Why stop now?
it's not fair to say she's got 3 kids and she doesn't care about this issue. I mean, she cares about this issue whether she has 10 kids or 0 kids. And I don't think you should dismiss her because she's only got 1 year. This has been her issue, and 1 year is a long time. So
Well,
maybe you
that's why
could.
I find it
My point is
mysterious.
this, Josh. She is massively less engaged now than she has been before. And so it's been notable. You can see it, you can feel it. It's not that she is not entity, it's not that she doesn't care, but she is not as engaged.
And in
But
every discussion,
my
she
question goes to the fact that this isn't going to pass without her support. She is,
Yeah.
let me
yeah,
just say it.
and I
She's
think
the
we'll
intellectual center of the council. And whenever there's like a workable solution that comes out on a contentious issue, she seems to be the one that's in the middle of it, crafting the, what gets voted on. So I just find it curious that she's not.
Well, passage of a rent control ordinance will have to go through Megan Harmon because she's the fourth vote. And I would imagine she's going to go for it. Whether she goes for what's been envisioned already, who knows? But I think that, she's going to need to be part of this. They can't do it without her unless they want to wait till she's off the council and Gabe Escobedo is, in her seat.
All right, Nick, before you get in any more trouble and have to join Ed St. George in the corner here, let me ask you about something else. We talked last week about how the county health department is now trying to find alternative medical care for about 7,500 people, immigrants who they're afraid, Trump's going to come after, or Trump is, blathered about something or other. And this was going to trigger some layoffs apparently in county government, and that was before the supes this week, and they, as in your phrase, punted on it. Can you sort that one out?
Yeah. I mean, on July 10th, JFK Jr. issued an edict saying if you are a patient in any of the 5 county health clinics, you have to have proof of citizenship before you can get served. This is a safety net health care measure, and we don't want people who are in the country without papers to get any benefit from it.
We want them walking around spreading tuberculosis.
We want them all spreading TB. Now, it is worth noting that there are no federal dollars paying for that. It is state money that is paying for it. So basically, the feds are stopping. I'll spare you all the administrative details, but it's state money that's on the table, not federal money, for these patients. So they figure there's 7,500 people of the 40,000 patients who use the health clinics who are not in the country with legal documentation. So if you get rid of them, the county would lose $8 million a year in revenue. So what do you have to do if you lose $8 million a year in revenue? Well, the proposal was we're going to lay off 56 people. And so what was before the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday was just sort of a green light to go ahead with the layoffs if that's what we need. Of those, about 35 are actually living, breathing human beings, and the others are funded positions that aren't currently filled. The blowback was very intense and angry, and it was a combination of the unions, SEIU, Local 620, and the sort of coalition of immigrant rights organizations that have sprung up in the wake of the whole ICE assault. And they were pissed. They were saying, look, nobody consulted with us, nobody talked to us, nobody notified us. This is a betrayal of trust. Now, the fact is, there were meetings beforehand with Dr. Hamami, who is the head of the county health department. But I think there wasn't a lot of notice. And I think what we really learned here, so ultimately the intensity of the blowback, there wasn't a single supervisor saying, you know what, we've got to rip the Band-Aid off, which is the other term we actually hear a lot in these moments. The county health department says we have to do this now because it takes months to make a transfer of to another healthcare provider who isn't under the federal sword. So what we need to do is find new places for these 7,500 patients. And that takes time, so we have to do it now, even though there is an injunction in place that is barring this edict from going into effect. That was the other issue.
All right. So what did they just delay it, or they're
They
gonna?
just said, you know what, we hear you, we get it. We're going to punt for a month, and we'll see what happens in a month. They're going to have meetings with the community. I don't know what new information will be available.
Nick, do you think it's more or less delayed to punt or to kick the can down the road when we
Punt is a lot farther.
we go to the government agency reporter a book of hardy cliches. All right, hey, listen, we got to get out of here, but real quick, Ryan, you had a piece about the roving band of heavily masked gangsters known as ICE trolling near campuses. What's that all about?
Yeah, we saw 4 arrests, right on Oceano, which is, right the alleyway behind West Campus at SBCC. So they're not technically on campus yet, but that's really close by, and that really got people scared. But the UC Santa Barbara one was the one that really kind of, got people a little bit upset, and that's, an ICE officer. We talked to UCSB, and they're saying it might not have been ICE. It might have been a federal officer that was inquiring on the immigration status. So take with that what you want to. It could be FBI, HSI working with ICE, but federal officer entered a lobby of the dorm where you're technically not allowed to go unless you have a key card. But I guess he had waited for somebody to either enter or exit that front door and went in and tried to identify somebody who either lived there currently or previously. And that was just scary to see, them willing to go on a campus like that. We haven't really seen that yet. And we've seen them go nearby elementary schools like Franklin. And this is the first time we've seen kind of a federal operation happen on a campus property that we've reported. And we're seeing a lot now is we're seeing more ICE pickups at the jails. We saw that a lot in the past couple days, both Ventura and North County. Not a lot here in South County, but so that must be some sort of cooperations with the sheriff's office, and just a lot of fear going around in general. But one thing that's stood out is kind of the rapid response volunteers have really built a team and a unit of dozens and dozens of volunteers who operate in neighborhoods all around Santa Barbara County. And as soon as there's a report, they can have somebody on scene that can take pictures and report how many people are getting taken. And then after that, they can follow these vehicles and say this vehicle is leaving Santa Barbara, and we know it's heading to either Santa Maria or Camarillo. And sure enough, 30 minutes later or so, another person in that area can follow that. And that's how they're keeping track.
Controversy about that, and the cowards at Apple, in fact, I think took the app off.
Yeah, and they took that down. But this rapid response network, if you ever see any reports, you really need to check in with that. They are very transparent. If it's not ICE, they let people know right away. They have a list of known vehicles that they follow in and out of these ICE facilities, so they know, because they're unmarked vehicles. You wouldn't really know otherwise. It's SUVs with tinted windows.
I think people need to know that it's not really hyperbole to call these guys secret police. I talked to yesterday.
This is the largest funded federal agency, and they should have matching uniforms. They should have.
They should be operating in
not
the
masked.
I asked our congressman yesterday whether he had been able to get any further information or evidence out of them about the 2 raids at the Glass House facilities. Absolutely not. And in fact, he's told they've been ordered not to return phone calls.
Exactly, Jerry. I get an automated
elected representatives.
Yeah, I get an automated message every time, and then now we got a new one saying that due to the federal funding, ICE will not return any emails or
Yeah, the
telephone calls
Democratic shutdown. Yeah.
when they weren't returning them either way before. So,
Josh, you had a piece on a story that has kind of gone a little bit under the radar. I think Kelly had this too, about the Montecito Union School District having to pony up $7.5 million for allegations of child abuse that go back to what, 30, 40 years?
Yeah, so there was a lawsuit, a civil suit against the former principal of Montecito Union School District. And this isn't really my beat. I don't cover Montecito, but they issued a press release on a Saturday afternoon, and I work Saturdays. And so I wrote it up. But essentially, the Montecito Union School District was getting sued for allegations of molestation dating back decades. And then so the law change, which allowed people who are victims of sexual assault to open up the statute of limitations and sue. And I think, minors, allowing them to sue. And so they did, and there were multiple clients, and they sued. And Montecito Union School District said, we can't take this to court. If we lose, there's no way we can stay profitable, we can survive. So they decided to settle, and they're going to figure out a way to do that. But I mean, that's a pretty horrific situation and terrible case.
I
The
think
guy's
something,
accused is dead. He passed away, so there's nothing there. But yeah,
I
that was
think
pretty horrible.
Carp Schools has a similar
Yeah.
problem. That's what's going on. Yeah.
But with the Carp School, the principal was charged and convicted. And, so in this case, there was no charge against the principal. There was nothing about this. And any of the corroborating witnesses are dead. So it's a classic. He said there was two brothers against this now deceased principal. So it's a much harder case.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to get out of here. But Nick, I just wanted to compliment you on your piece about Sylvia Bernard and Good Samaritan. Everybody should go read that piece.
Well, thank you.
It's an excellent read about something that's actually positive coming off the homelessness beat, and people who are working to find practical things that are actually effective.
Can I say one thing on that?
Oh, sure.
This is sort of, I had all this information about Sylvia I wanted to put in, but I couldn't figure out structurally how to squeeze it in, given the space constraint. And so I had this guy who was going to be giving a Q&A with her on the stage at this fundraiser next week. And so it was like, I don't know what he's going to ask, but he might ask about this. And he could ask about that, or he could ask about. It was like
nicely done conceit.
Oh my God! It was just. I kind of thought, all right, I like that one.
Yeah, on the city desk, we used to call that 3 pounds of shit in a 2-pound bag.
Yeah.
All right, I got to run. I got to go to the office.
All right, Ryan
Yeah.
Cruz, Nick Welsh, Josh,
All right.
thanks very much. We'll see you later. Thanks
You
for
take
watching,
care.
everybody.